Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Body Wisdom Podcast. We're your hosts, Kiara Gaby and Gaby Barboza. Welcome, guys. We're so excited to be here with you again. One of the first topics that Gaby and I feel like we have our own conversations about is body image. And I know this is something that my audience comes to me about. And I'm sure the same goes for you, Gaby. Like, this is just such a big topic just as a woman in today's society. So I know this is going to be good. So buckle up, guys.
I'm excited.
Yeah. I guess I'll just shoot with my own body image issues. I feel like they've been there ever since I was a kid. I had a family member actually call me fat. I remember the exact instance. I remember exactly what I was wearing. And it's such an imprint, you know? Then my mom came in to protect me. And so immediately I thought oh, that must be bad. She came to my defense, don't call her that. That must be really bad to feel fat. Right. So that on top of what my mom was going through, what our parents were going through. And I don't also want to discriminate. I think men go through this as well, but just for the purpose of our audience, we'll probably be using in the context of a woman, but diet culture. And what were the diets back then, Gaby? The Atkins diet, Weight Watchers.
I did Special K in high school.
Special K diet.
And then college, where you have 2 bowls of Special K cereal and then I think 1 meal.
We talked about
Literally.
this.
Carb bomb, and then I just can't imagine the blood sugar. But yeah, Atkins, low carb, Special K, Beachbody,
Beachbody.
But the South, there was one that had shakes, and it always had an infomercial.
Yeah. What I did in high school was P90X. And I think there was a nutrition program with that as well. I mean, I went on fasted runs and then I would come home and do P90X and just sweat like crazy. Mm-hmm. And I dropped weight fast, but gosh, can you just imagine what was happening on the inside of my body? I can't even remember how I felt, honestly. I wish I could, but I can just imagine. And obviously it did lead to further dysregulation down the road. I was really struggling with my health symptoms in college and after college. So it does accumulate, because I think in the moment, those stress hormones feel really good. You're on a roll. And I remember feeling so proud of myself and just on one, and everyone spoke to me, wow, she's such an active person and good for her. That's awesome. But yeah, we didn't really see the ramifications until a few years later.
Yeah. P90X, my roommates and I lived on the 3rd floor of an apartment complex, and we used to do it on the 3rd floor and literally cause a hurricane in the building, the birds, yes, the jump spots. And
it's so intense.
Yeah, it's wild to think I did that every day for a while.
I really wonder if people do that these days. I feel like people are more into the group classes, Soul Cycle, Orange Theory, or F45, all these classes. But anyway, going back to just how I was around that diet culture, when my mom was trying to lose weight, we found a journal when we were cleaning out her house, last year, of her tracking her food, or how much weight she wanted to lose and all this stuff. And, I have so much compassion for her and I can be empathetic towards that, because it wasn't her fault. Everyone else around her was just making her feel that way. And she didn't really know, she didn't have me to tell her hey, this is how we nourish our body. And then we support blood sugar and weight can naturally fall off. It's not so much of we need to target this area and that area and then you lose weight. But anyway, ever since I was a little girl, weight was just a big thing in my life. We had to work out. And I remember going to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning in high school and doing the Stairmaster, crazy. And so it's this long lineage of, wow, we're undoing so much. And now, we were just discussing, it's on the flip side, it's anti-diet culture. And so now we've gone to the other end of the pendulum, as you were saying.
Yeah, that's a big thing that I feel is present now. Growing up, I was just, I didn't really think about my body at all. And then in 4th grade, maybe in 3rd grade, but in 4th grade, I had my first seizure. So I had epilepsy from 4 to 7th grade. And I was put on an epilepsy medication, which made everything slow down, because that's the point, is slow down the brain and slow down the body. And I gained a lot of weight because of that, because I was so tired. I didn't move as much. I still played outside, but just everything was slowing down. I was also on the sad American diet, unfortunately, not like to a huge extreme, but just was eating like the little Debbie's and after school and things that weren't supporting my body. And then that's really when I started to get bullied. That's really when I started to feel like, oh, I knew my body was different than other people. And I would see in photos that it was different and I would notice that. But when I started to get bullied heavily in 7th grade, I was like, oh, okay. So then, yeah, that's really where I started to try to change my body. I think I went on my first diet in like 6th or 7th grade and I had like printed out tips because at that point, I don't know if anyone remembers, but like Zanga, did you use the blog Zanga?
Blog Zanga.
Yeah, it was like a blog for kids.
No.
Yeah. I don't know if it was for kids, but it was a blog back then. And I was on it and there was like this big community that was like pro Anna, which would be like pro anorexia and then like pro bulimia. And they would put out tips on like how to basically have an eating disorder.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember printing tips out and like, they were like, chew gum, brush your teeth a lot, chew ice, and like all these things. And I found it years later. My boyfriend at the time in high school came across it and I like snatched it from his hands and I was so ashamed, but really it wasn't my fault. It was just like what we were given growing up in our generation. Yeah, throughout the years, it's come in and out, but my body has changed a lot throughout the years. And I've really realized now that my body is a reflection of my emotional health and changes based on where I am emotionally. And that pendulum that I want to speak on too, for sure, is that we were in that stage of people just like openly giving directions essentially on how to have an eating disorder. And then now we're in an anti-diet culture phase, which is necessary with everything that happened and that we went through. But I think we've gone so far to make people believe that they cannot ever want to change their body. And I think something that we want to talk about is that you can still love your body deeply and appreciate your body and still want to change it. And that's okay. We can help you do it in a way that is nourishing instead of the extremes. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
I know there's that mantra or just saying you need to love your body and love everything it does for you. And I think like we can all deeply understand to an extent. Yeah. Wow. Like my body carries me throughout the entire day. And there's still this, I still don't feel comfortable in my body. I don't feel safe in my body right now because I just know that this is just not my natural state right now. And I know my body wants to achieve balance and how can I support it? And so what I always tell my clients, and this can apply to just so many things in our lives, that we don't have to love something right away, but can we accept it and maybe meet it with neutrality and just start there and then maybe elevate to a state of love in time with support, with the right resources. I remember I was doing like If It Fits Your Macros in college. Yeah. If you guys know If It Fits Your Macros, like
and everything.
I was eating Skittles as my carbs with like protein on the side.
With like a protein powder that has artificial flavors on it.
Oh yeah, 100%. So I transitioned from eating all that shit to like real wholesome food. Immediately, like I lost all this weight. And then kind of you were speaking to like the emotional aspect of everything. I went through a very like big period of stress and my body was holding on to that. It's very protective. It's trying to keep your body safe and it's saying like, oh no. And yeah, it's like holding on to things too. I think at that point in my life, I was having a really hard time of letting go of some things in my life. And so once I left that space, once I let go, then it's just so crazy. My body is like a barometer for stress. I mean, really for everyone's body is in so many different ways. But yeah, it's crazy, all the emotional baggage and how that can literally feel like a weight on your shoulders, a weight on your body. And you were talking about the bullying aspect. I remember I was bullied in 7th grade too. And I started noticing cellulite on my thighs and other girls were like, ew, she has cellulite. How dare she? And I don't know. So I was very self-conscious about wearing shorts. And it wasn't until even still sometimes, like, I don't want to say like I'm in this place of like, I am healed with all my body image issues, but sometimes I really don't like how my legs look, and that's okay. But I also come back to my body and tend to my body and tend to that part of me that feels that way. And how can I almost soothe or nurture that part so that it isn't so loud and prominent all the time? I just want her to feel seen and heard, and that it makes so much sense that she feels this way. And I have yet to kind of really dive into the body image stuff in regards to like a parts aspect of things, like parts work. I don't know if you've done that in your work.
All the time.
Yeah. I haven't really worked with that yet.
Yeah. It's definitely a big part because it has been something that I've struggled with greatly, like since middle school. And I want to know what is the part of me that potentially was holding on to extra weight that didn't feel comfortable. And also what's the part of me that is just like, what is going on? Like nothing that we do feels like it's working. And this has changed over time. And I also just want to speak to the cycle of your hormones and how parts can change, like based on where you are in your cycle. And so there's certain times like ovulation where you might be like, oh, I feel super confident right now. Like this is good. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, did I just gain 15 pounds? Like I feel entirely different. And there might be a piece of water retention there in the luteal phase, and a little water retention can be normal, but it's also just reminding yourself like, oh, okay, unless I just binged for 2 weeks, I likely didn't gain very much weight. I don't even have to weigh myself to figure that out. And so I can just speak to this part of me in my luteal phase that is like, what just happened? Why do I not feel confident anymore? And just soothe the different times of our cycle and just appreciate that.
I love that you brought that up because we are cyclical beings, being women, and we are going to shift all throughout the entire month. I love that there's this meme, and I feel like any woman can use this, but really any person can use this because we have multiple personalities, but especially women throughout the month. It was like these two people, and they were talking about how they were just entering a relationship, and he opens the door, or she opens the door, and she's like, meet my many personalities, like, welcome to our relationship. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly it. We're shifting various points throughout the month. And I think, I mean, this is kind of going off on a tangent for a second, but we think that we're supposed to be energetic throughout the entire month. We have this like misconception that our fatigue is wrong throughout various points of the month, and we're supposed to be like on all the time. And that's just simply not true. And same goes for our thoughts. Like our thoughts are going to shift throughout the month. And it's not linear, which is kind of bringing it back to body image. This whole journey of body image work is very non-linear, as you just described, because we are non-linear beings. So there are going to be moments where we feel amazing and we feel healed and like, gosh, we just want to spread the word. And then there are moments where it's like, what the fuck just happened? I feel like I know nothing. And one of the things that has really helped me come back to my body, and this is also going to vary for each system. And what we're saying is not advice. We're just kind of sharing, what's worked for us or what's supported us in our journey. And there are moments where I'm like very resistant to it, but that's mirror work, not only for my body, but also for my yoni. And I feel like that can also be a gateway towards kind of reclaiming your power in your body too, is when you look at your yoni in the mirror. When you look at your body naked in the mirror, what do you notice? What's coming up? Notice all the parts that are coming up. And one of the sentences that I've been really using in my own life right now, when I notice a part come up in my body, let's bring it back to the shorts conversation. What happens if you wear shorts? Oh, then my legs look big or jiggly or whatever. And what happens if your legs are seen as jiggly or big? Then I'll be seen as ugly. And what happens if you're seen as ugly? Then I won't be loved. And that's the wound. There's a part, or an exiled part, that feels unlovable by just being exactly how she is in her natural state. And so that she feels that she needs to, well, I guess protective parts feel like they need to cover up and be a certain way, look a certain way in order to be loved. And that's big.
Yeah. And I think a big part of this is it's based on your own, of course, like upbringing and what you saw and our society, which we're all a part of. And all of that. And I think it's also can be impacted by relationships. Like, what if you've ever had a significant other that has either loved your body in the state that it's in right now, or if they've commented on a change in your body and like how that landed for you, coming back to like how you feel about your body before you had that comment. I don't know why that's just like coming up in my mind. I have not had an experience where a partner has commented like, oh, you've gained some weight. Like, hey,
but that does happen. Like how many?
There's a woman where their partner is like, you sure you want to eat that? Like, don't you want to lose weight? Like things like that. And I want to just speak to that too and try to bring it back to how do you feel before, like, not how they feel, but how do you feel? And how can you step back into your power? And if you're still with someone who said that to you, like, how can you have that conversation around like, please don't comment on my body unless it's loving every inch of it. And that's it.
Oh, can we just talk about how healing that is for a moment? Mm-hmm. I remember when I met my now boyfriend, I think I don't know. I don't really remember if I was dealing with like body image issues at the time. They weren't like at the forefront of my mind, but I'm sure like subconsciously they were there. And he was probably the first person who respectfully worshiped my body in like the best way. And it brings so much healing. I mean, if y'all look back to the photos and videos of me at that time, like I was glowing. I was like being ravished in all types of ways. And it was just so healing to feel that way from someone else and to not have insecurity about your body. Like it just feels so good when you're with the right person that can be that for you. Not that it's all external, the external validation is real. And we definitely want it to be just like a gateway and a portal for you to see your own power and your own beauty that lies within you.
And when you see that, I like that you brought the external I was thinking about that too, wanting to touch on it. When you see that in yourself, you're able to exude that to other people.
Yep.
And they can more easily see that in you. Yeah. I'm just gonna be really candid too. When I was in Portugal, I had relations with somebody and was just like dating someone. And the way that he viewed my body, I mean, I've experienced it before, but he was just like, oh my gosh, this is like, your body is exactly what I pictured myself to be with. Like, it's so strong. And when you use the word strong, I was like, at first I laughed because he has like this accent, like so strong. Like, oh my God, like that is a beautiful way to look at a woman's body, just like strong, healthy. That's what I felt it like.
Healthy. I love that.
Nourished. In general, no matter what your body looks like if you are thinking to yourself, well, I don't feel like my body looks strong. That's okay. It's just, how can you, and I felt very confident before I met him. I was really coming back into my body. That's really been my practice all year, is coming back into my body, really connecting. And I think I was giving off that energy as well. I mean, there's definitely times, and we've talked about the times that I am not feeling confident and all of that, but just knowing that it's cyclical. And at the time that I met him, I was feeling confident, maybe because I was in Europe and very different. It is so healing.
So healing. Well, I mean, we've talked about this before and how the feminine just wants to be seen. Mm-hmm. And so when you have the masculine there to just witness all the work that you've already done, it's just like so reaffirming, and it just brings you back even more so to your body, to yourself, to your power. And then, like you said, you exude that, and then you attract all these beautiful relationships into your life. It really is like, I mean, it sounds cheesy, like the law of attraction, the power of attraction. It's just, I hate using it. It's like this woo stuff, but I love the woo at the same time, because it is this energetic power that is moving throughout life. I mean, think about the people that you're most attracted to in life. The one who's like the most confident in the room. I remember one time, we're actually doing this weekend, Gabby. We're going dancing after Friendsgiving, and we're recording this like a week before Thanksgiving, everyone. And I was the only one dancing. I was like by myself dancing, and it just felt so good to be in my body. But all these people were coming up to me. They're like, I love your energy. And I was like, thanks. But I didn't even care. Like, it just felt so good. But when they would do that, it would just be like, oh yeah, like this feels even better now. Like, as I'm just dancing there by myself, these people would just come up to me and want to dance with me, like, Anyway, that was going off on a side tangent.
It's the energetics of it. And yeah, I don't even like using the word woo because I think that almost like sometimes is like, I'm trying to tone it down, but it's really just like energetics, like
it is energetics.
Life. And law of attraction is like new age. It's depends, but like what you are interested in. But like before new age, it was just energetics, and it makes such a difference. And it doesn't mean that you have to be confident every day. And it's just a practice. And when you experience it, you understand what it feels like to be working on yourself and like coming back to yourself, and then how that ripples into your life is something that's hard to explain until you experience it.
But if you're someone who's just starting out in this journey of weight loss, because I feel like that's, kind of the person that we're working with. And also there are people who have, been in this space for a really long time and they're like, okay, like when can I start losing weight? You touched on it earlier. One of the biggest pieces of this journey is really coming back to your metabolic health. How is your blood sugar regulation? I feel like that's something that needs maybe a little bit more support in different systems. And so that is like, we work with the foundation so much with our clients and really bringing it back home to them, because we can never lose sight of those foundations, especially in a space that is all about quick fixes and how can I just do this? Can I just get rid of this already? And really honing in on your foundation, establishing that, making sure it is strong and healthy and resilient. And so Gaby and I are collaborating on a course to kind of bring back those foundations and have just a resource for you guys to learn from and really never lose sight of those foundations, because that's really what we always come back to in our own personal journeys too. So we're excited.
Yeah. And they don't have to be perfect either. This will just be just the things that you can focus on and just remind yourself, even if you think you're doing everything. That's a big thing we hear. It's a big thing that sometimes I feel. I don't know what you hear, but sometimes I feel I'm like, I'm doing everything. Why do I have this one symptom? But maybe you're not. And it doesn't mean you have to be perfect, but maybe there's a piece that you've been kind of neglecting that really is asking for support. And it's a reminder of that.
That's how I feel. So it's so easy for the mind to kind of think, and this is not anyone's fault. I feel like I don't know why, honestly, but I think it's just our human minds, and it is very protective. I want to feel safe. How can I feel safe now? But yeah. And then I'm like going through my foundations like, oh yeah, I think that could probably use a little bit more support if I'm being totally honest with myself, instead of like hopping to this supplement or this other thing I could get into. But gosh, like what about my foundations? And that's one of the best things I learned from the NTA. My instructor really nailed that in. My brain was like, nope. I wasn't ready to like hear that fully, but then I don't know, just as time has gone on, it really has always come back to that. So really grateful for that experience. So stay tuned, or maybe the course will be out by then, but we will be sure to link all of the course details in the show notes for you guys. So we will see you inside. And I think that's all we have for this episode, Gaby, right?
I think so. See you next time.
All right. Bye, everyone.